Okay, I'm new at this, guys. I need to rotate my device. Well, hello. I wanted to give an update about what happened yesterday and today in court. I hope you bear with me as I'm sitting here doing this by myself. I drove all day Monday. I hooked up with Shauna later on in the evening, and we were able to travel into Pendleton together, where we stayed the night, and then we drove into Portland the next morning to attend court. We were there probably about 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning, only to find out that we were not going to be allowed into court because they were still working with the jurors in reference to their questionnaire that they were filling out. And then, so Shauna and I waited around because we were told to come back at 1 o'clock. And we did. We went back and we sat there and we waited and we waited and we asked some questions in reference to, you know, hey, why are we not going to be allowed to go in? And what they did around 2 o'clock, they filled up the entire courtroom with close to 100 jurors, where then they said that we're going to have to wait until some of the jurors left in order for us to come in. And so we're sitting there waiting patiently, and gosh, it's about 4 o'clock, I think, close to 4 o'clock, and I'm sitting next to Maxine, who writes for the Oregonian, and we're kind of saying this is kind of unusual that they're not allowing any public in there, or the press, or anybody. And so she happens to make a call, and she makes a call to the judge, and the judge gets on the phone and says, well, let me make room for you. So Maxine gets into the courtroom. They make room for her. So we're continuing to sit out in the lobby going, they're never going to let anybody go because they don't want anybody in here to see this process go on. Or to even, you know, we don't know what kind of questions they were asking. We don't know why some of them were dismissed, etc. So we sat there, and about 4:45, they finally allow us to come in. And they have dismissed the rest of the jurors, that they have seated the jurors that they have picked. And then there's some confusion on whether or not the jurors have been sworn in. And they kind of outline what's going to happen the next day and what the next phase will get. He talks about giving the jurors their instructions tomorrow, and that he thanks them for their service, and then we leave. It was kind of a slow start to this whole process. But I'm determined. I'm grateful to be there. I'm grateful for all the support and love that all of you have shown our family, and for the help that you've given us, enabling us to be there. Well, this morning we went into court, and we were let in today, and without any waiting in the overflow or anywhere. It started out, I've got some notes here, so pardon me for reading some of it. But at 9 o'clock, the judge started with the jurors' instructions. And what I found very interesting in this part was the judge made some statements. I felt like he was making statements within the beginning opening remarks of his instructions. And one of the things that kind of struck me was he continued to refer to Jeanette Finicum as a militia leader. And my husband wasn't a militia leader. He wasn't in a militia. There's nothing wrong with it, in my opinion, but the only groups that my husband belonged to was his church and his large family that we have. He was not a militia leader. I don't know. They want to say it because they've so successfully demonized the word militia. They've demonized militia members throughout the country that are trying to do good works and good things within their own personal communities. You know, like Toys for Tots and different things that these people are doing. But they want to demonize the militia members so that they have an excuse to, you know, go after them. And successfully label lynch us. You know, they label lynch us into these categories, and then it justifies their behavior towards us by the arrests, etc. The other thing that I found very interesting was that I felt like he exaggerated. He made the comment, like I said, I'm sitting here doing all of this myself. I'm going to switch hands here. Oh, that's okay. Anyways, I felt like he exaggerated. He said that when Lavoie went around that corner, he purposely accelerated and aimed for an FBI agent as to mow him down. And I thought, oh, what an irresponsible statement to be making to these jurors that probably know nothing about this case, or they only know what they've heard or read in the papers. And I thought to myself, why would you do that? Well, of course, they want to demonize my husband. And so in their opening remarks to the jurors, this is what they're doing. When in fact, then in the same breath, he says, but this is not the subject of this case, meaning Lavoie Finicum is not the reason you are here. That is not the reason why we're having this hearing today. And so I thought, wow, first you demonize him, you label lynch him, you accuse him of attempted murder, and then you say, but jurors, disregard everything I've just said, because this isn't why we're here today, and this doesn't really have anything to do with what Agent Astarita is here for. After the judge's opening remarks and jury's instructions, then the government made their opening statement, and then the defense made their opening statements. And we learned some things in there. We learned that, well, actually, I believe that we learned when the witnesses started testifying. Their first witness was Greg Bretzing with the FBI. He was head of the whole entire operation. And we learned there that there were over 300 FBI officers there. Just the FBI alone, they had over 300. There were many other little tidbits that, I can go into another time because I don't want to make this too long. The second witness today was Travis Hampton, and he was head of the OSP, Oregon State Police. He was the one running that portion of the operation. The third witness, who I will consider hostile, was Scott Ward. He was with the FBI. He was one of the agents that was left in charge of the roadblock and securing both ends of the roadblock after the murder of my husband. He made a comment that I also felt was irresponsible. He said that we, the people that were at the refuge, my husband in particular, were a threat against America. So I guess if you're standing up for your First Amendment right to free speech, and if you're up there trying to stand for your neighbor because his property is being taken from him, and the Hammonds are off on their way to jail, and you just want to show them some support, and in reference to property rights, trying to stand for that, then you are a threat against America, and you will have to be dealt with. I found that very interesting and very threatening to me, because I'm going to exercise my First Amendment right to speak. I'm going to exercise all of my amendments. I'm going to stand. I hope I do it as well as my husband did. At the end, also the defense is trying to project the responsibility onto officer number one. They're not giving their names, but officer number one has admitted to firing 5 shots, 2 of which killed my husband. Officer 2 also fired one of the shots that killed Lavoie. So what I watched in their defense and their questioning is that they're trying to set up officer 1 as the person who was responsible for shooting and killing Lavoie, and those extra 2 shots that FBI officer Astarita is on trial for. That's pretty much what I learned today. A lot of it. There's a whole bunch more, but to make this short, I just kind of gave you the highlights and the little blurbs here. Again, I want to say thank you so much for being here with us and for supporting us and for continuing to stand for what's good in America. I want one of the reasons I am doing this, one of the reasons I am up here is to make sure that we hold them accountable for the wrongs that they have done. You know, this officer is accused of lying and obstructing justice. He's not accused of killing my husband, but he's accused of lying. And we need to hold these people accountable. You know, in DC, all we hear day in and day out on the radio is how our FBI and CIA are corrupted from the top down. It is not a far stretch to think that possibly Astarita did lie. Look at what else they have done. You know, they talked about the FBI honor code and about integrity. And I want to see that restored to their, within their office, within their officers, within the men that are taking these oaths to protect and serve this America. They're here to protect and serve this people as well. And let's do it with integrity. Let's do it with honesty. You want the American people to trust you again, don't you? I don't know. I don't know after what I saw today in court, but I'm going to keep trying. I'm going to keep having hope. And I'm going to hope for the best. But God bless you. Thank you so much for everything you do for me. Bye.